Out in deep space, some ships are still drifting, long after their crews vanished. No signals, no answers, just silent vessels moving through the dark as if something still guides them. These stories come from real mission logs and recovery teams who found what should have stayed lost. So if you're listening in the dark, settle in, because after this, the silence of space won't feel empty anymore. I've spent most of my life orbiting planets, staring into the endless black. Yet nothing could have prepared me for the day I found the silent Voyager. My mission was routine, a simple cargo run to a research station beyond the Kuiper Belt. But something in the ship's sensors caught my eye. An anomaly, floating silently, suspended in the void as though it had been waiting for me. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. Old, worn, the hull pitted from decades of cosmic radiation. But even through the grainy scanner feed, I could feel something off. It wasn't tumbling, wasn't drifting aimlessly. It hung there, motionless, like a relic frozen in time. My chest tightened as I approached. I had the unsettling sensation that this ship wasn't just abandoned, it was expecting me. Docking was a slow, meticulous process. Every movement echoed in the void. My suit sensors were jittering, picking up faint electronic signals, maybe remnants of a life support system long since expired. I told myself it was normal. Spacecraft often retained small residual energy. But the feeling persisted. Something was alive here, quietly watching. Inside, the corridors were oppressive in their silence. My helmet lights cut through only fractions of the darkness, leaving long, shifting shadows in their wake. The recycled air smelled stale, a faint metallic tang that somehow felt familiar, like a home I had never lived in. I walked cautiously, my footsteps hollow against the metal floors, every panel and console whispering stories I couldn't yet hear. I reached the control room. The monitors flickered weakly, some still showing fragmented logs, partial messages in static-laced text, coordinates, timestamps, cryptic notes, and one word repeated endlessly: stay. I shook my head, trying to convince myself it was just residual data corruption. But then I noticed movement, not real movement exactly, but a distortion in the shadows, shapes curling along the walls and angles that shouldn't exist. I explored the living quarters next. Beds were still made, drawers half open, personal effects scattered as if the crew had left abruptly. I could almost imagine them here, sleeping, working, laughing in the tiny kitchen that barely held a dozen people. There were photos, faded and curled, of families and friends, staring back with faces that seemed more real than the empty corridors around me. My stomach tightened. Had they just vanished? I couldn't help but feel their presence lingering, watching me carefully from the dark corners. As I moved deeper into the ship, I started hearing the softest things, faint taps, the low hum of a system that shouldn't have been on, almost like the ship was breathing with me. My own breath sounded loud, intrusive, like I was disturbing some delicate balance. I tried to focus on logic, on protocol, but my mind kept wandering. Every room had its own story. A terminal that still displayed an unfinished message, a half-eaten ration bar, a floating journal with notes about stars shifting in impossible ways. Then I reached the observation deck. The largest window in the ship, normally framing an endless stretch of stars. The stars were not static. They flickered, shifted, moved ever so slightly, as if responding to my presence. And then a sound, a faint, deliberate tap, like fingernails against steel. I froze, helmet lights trembling slightly in my hand. I wanted to call for backup. I wanted to leave immediately, but a part of me couldn't. Something about the silent Voyager demanded attention. The shadows inside the corridors seemed to pulse softly, almost breathing along with me. I felt the ship's emptiness pressing against me, patient, alive in a way that space was never supposed to be. I took a step closer to the window, feeling a quiet pull, a soft insistence to look deeper. And as I stared at the shifting constellation beyond the glass, I had the creeping realization that the ship was not just abandoned. It was a vessel of intention, and somehow, some way, it knew I had arrived. I turned to leave the observation deck, thinking I would return to my own ship. But then I noticed a small figure in the corner of the room. It wasn't solid, not entirely, just a shadow, a suggestion of movement. I blinked, and it vanished. But I could still feel it there, waiting, patient, almost curious. Whatever it wasn't ready to let me go. The observation deck felt impossibly cold, though my suit read normal temperature. I kept staring at the window, trying to make sense of the shifting stars. They weren't just flickering. They seemed to move as if they were reacting to me. And for a moment, I felt dizzy, like the universe itself was tilting slightly, adjusting to my presence. I told myself it was a trick of the eyes, of stress and isolation. But the longer I stared, the more the deck seemed to stretch around me. The corners of the room elongated, shadows deepening in impossible ways. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing back at me, not just in my ears, but almost through the walls themselves. It was faint, but insistent, like a rhythm reminding me that I was observed. I turned slowly, trying to convince myself there was nothing else here, when I noticed the console lights flicker again. Small messages flashed briefly, fragmented logs, warnings, coordinates, and then a single word that made my stomach tighten. Wait. It was different from before, insistent, almost like the ship itself was speaking. I didn't want to admit it, but a creeping thought formed in my mind. I wasn't alone here. I moved down the hall again, tracing the route I had taken hours before. The corridors now felt unfamiliar. Doors I remembered passing were gone, replaced by panels that hadn't been there before. My own footsteps echoed differently, heavier, slower. I could hear soft tapping again, distant, deliberate. Somewhere behind the walls, every sense screamed at me to leave, yet I couldn't. Something compelled me forward, deeper into the heart of the silent Voyager. I reached what appeared to be the engine room. The hum was faint but unmistakable, low, vibrating through the metal floors. Sparks flickered on a console, casting brief staccato shadows along the walls. And then I noticed the logs, entire sequences of recordings, partially corrupted, repeating the same phrase over and over. "Don't leave. We are waiting." The words weren't threatening, not in the way a threat might be, but heavy, patient. They felt like the ship itself was alive, breathing silently, waiting for someone to understand. I sat on the edge of the catwalk, staring down at the pulsating engine core. There were no crew, no signs of life, but I could feel a presence, subtle and patient, watching. The tapping returned, this time closer, echoing inside my helmet, soft but rhythmic. It wasn't a sound I could identify, metal on metal maybe, or fingers tracing panels, but it was deliberate. I closed my eyes, trying to center myself, but the tapping continued, now joined by a faint vibration through the floor, like a heartbeat from the ship itself. Time began to lose meaning. Minutes stretched into hours, or maybe seconds, but it felt like the ship existed on its own timeline. And then I saw it again, in the corner of the engine room. A shadow, elongated, almost humanoid, but moving in a way that didn't make sense. I tried to call out, but my voice felt swallowed by the walls. It was patient, watching, almost curious. I could sense it, faintly warm in the cold metal, but whenever I looked directly, it was gone. I decided to retreat toward the observation deck, telling myself I would record everything and leave. But the hallways had changed again. Doors that I remembered were now sealed. Panels slid silently open, revealing passages I had never seen. My own ship felt impossibly distant. The sense of being inside something conscious, something that had been waiting for me all along, was overwhelming. Back at the observation deck, I sat down in front of the window, staring at the stars as they shifted ever so subtly. The ship's hum filled the silence, and for the first time, I felt a strange calm. It wasn't fear exactly, but an awareness that I had stepped into a space beyond comprehension. A space where the rules I knew didn't apply. The tapping ceased, leaving only silence. The shadows receded, but the feeling remained, patient, watching, alive. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run back to my ship and escape, but I realized the silent Voyager wasn't finished with me. Maybe it never would be. I didn't see anything, but I could feel it everywhere. The presence lingering in the walls, in the empty corridors, in the hum of the distant engines. Somewhere in the heart of the ship, it waited. And as I finally made my way back, I looked out one last time at the void, and for a brief moment, the stars themselves seemed to shift, just for me. And then, nothing. No warning. No threat. Just the silent Voyager, floating in the dark, waiting patiently, as though the universe itself had paused to watch. I never imagined I'd be the one to discover Celestia Station. It was supposed to be a routine supply run to one of the research satellites orbiting an icy exoplanet on the edge of the Oort cloud. Communication had been quiet for weeks, which wasn't unusual for deep space outposts. But when my ship's sensors picked up an unexpected structure, something that shouldn't have been there, I couldn't ignore it. At first, it looked like a derelict satellite, drifting silently in the darkness. But as I approached, the faint glimmer of lights revealed its true scale. It wasn't just a satellite, it was a station. Massive, sprawling, and completely abandoned. The exterior hull was worn and scratched, bearing scars from countless micrometeorite impacts. Yet it held together, perfectly intact, as if waiting for someone, or something, to arrive. Docking was meticulous. Every movement echoed in the void, and my suit sensors registered faint electromagnetic interference. My heart began to race, though I tried to calm myself. It's just a station, I told myself. Empty, silent, lifeless. But the moment I crossed the threshold, I realized silence can be louder than any scream. The interior was vast, dark, and almost dreamlike. The lights along the corridors flickered in irregular patterns, casting long, twitching shadows along the metal walls. The air wasn't breathable, of course, but my helmet sensors picked up faint traces of a life support system that still ticked faintly, like a weak pulse. I felt it before I saw it. A presence, soft and patient, lingering just beyond the corner of my vision. As I moved through the main hub, I noticed something strange. Personal items. A mug still sitting on a table, a stack of data pads, half spilled, as if the crew had simply walked away. Nothing violent, nothing dramatic, just gone. And the emptiness felt heavier than it should have, almost tangible, pressing against my thoughts like water around a diver. I found the observation lounge next. It overlooked a gas giant, massive and swirling, its clouds glowing faintly in the distant starlight. The view should have been breathtaking, but instead, I felt an odd unease. The stars outside weren't quite right. Patterns shifted too subtly, too deliberately. My pulse quickened. I tried to reassure myself, thinking perhaps it was exhaustion or a sensor glitch. But every instinct in me screamed otherwise. I moved slowly from compartment to compartment, cataloging equipment, scanning consoles, and recording data for my logs. The further I went, the more peculiar the station became. Hallways twisted in ways that didn't align with schematics. Doors appeared where they shouldn't, and faint sounds echoed behind the walls, almost like soft footsteps pacing in the distance. I kept telling myself it was mechanical settling or my own imagination, but the noises were deliberate, rhythmic, and impossibly calm. In the central command room, I discovered logs from the last few weeks of the station's operation. They were fragmentary, glitching, almost unreadable, but certain phrases repeated in every file. Do not interfere. Wait for the visitor. We cannot leave. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something had known I was coming. The logs didn't read like warnings. They read like instructions, carefully recorded for the eyes of the next person who might arrive. I lingered in the crew quarters, staring at photographs of families, smiles frozen in time, objects left in hurried neglect. I imagined their daily lives here, how they must have drifted through the station in perfect routine, now gone, leaving only echoes behind. There was a quiet melancholy, not frightening exactly, but deeply unsettling, as if the station itself mourned its inhabitants. Then I heard it, soft at first, almost imperceptible, a whisper, barely audible through my helmet. Elena. My breath caught. I spun slowly, searching the corridors, but there was nothing. The voice was calm, patient, not urgent, not angry, just waiting. I told myself it was the radio, interference, fatigue. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I approached the observation deck again, drawn by some subtle pull I couldn't explain. Outside, the gas giant rotated slowly, clouds shifting in impossible patterns, and the stars around it seemed to pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. My skin tingled under my suit. The station was aware. It wasn't just metal and circuits, it was alive in a quiet, patient way, and it had been waiting for someone to witness it. As I reached the center of the deck, a shadow flickered across the wall behind me. I froze, heart racing, breath shallow. The station hummed softly, a low, resonant vibration through the metal floors. And then I heard it again, the whisper of my name, closer this time, as if just inches from my ear. Something was here with me, patient, observing, waiting. The observation deck seemed to stretch around me, the shadows deepening in ways that didn't make sense. The whisper of my name had stopped, but a different sound had taken its place. A soft tapping, metallic yet muted, reverberated somewhere just beyond the walls. My helmet amplified every creak and hum, each echo like a gentle heartbeat in the silence. I couldn't see anything moving, but I felt a presence, patient, curious, lingering in the corners where light couldn't reach. I moved cautiously toward the command center, retracing my steps, hoping to gather more data. The hallways felt wrong. Corridors I had walked before now curved in impossible ways, leading me into unfamiliar spaces. My suit sensors picked up faint energy readings, low hums I couldn't explain. I began to notice the floors pulsing subtly under my boots, a rhythm almost like breathing. I realized the station itself had a presence, a slow, deliberate awareness, and it had been aware of me all along. In the central hub, I found more logs, fragments of messages, partially corrupted data. Words repeated themselves. Observe, wait, return. Only calm, patient instructions for someone to follow. And for the first time, I understood. The station had a memory. It had been keeping watch, preserving fragments of life, waiting for someone to notice. I lingered by the observation window, staring at the gas giant below, swirling in soft luminescence. The clouds shifted almost imperceptibly, patterns forming and dissolving, as if communicating in a language I couldn't comprehend. Outside, stars twinkled, but subtly, irregularly. I could feel the station's attention on me, deliberate and patient. A chill ran down my spine, not of fear exactly, but of awe, of recognition. I was inside something alive, something ancient and aware. Then I heard movement behind me, soft, deliberate footsteps. Not mechanical, not clanging against metal, but slow, measured, and eerily calm. I turned slowly, expecting nothing, and indeed, nothing appeared. Yet the sensation of being observed intensified. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving slightly, as if reacting to my presence. I felt drawn to the edge of the deck, to the place where light met shadow, to the subtle pulse of energy running beneath the floor. I moved carefully, documenting everything, recording as much as I could, but every step seemed to ripple through the station. Hallways shifted again. Doors appeared where none existed before. Panels slid open silently, revealing empty rooms I hadn't explored. I tried to rationalize it. Gravity fluctuations, structural quirks. But my instincts whispered otherwise. Something beyond comprehension was here. Something patient, waiting for me to understand without demanding it. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. I lost track of time entirely. My helmet lights reflected off the walls, flickering over the ghostly outlines of the station's past inhabitants, projected faintly, almost like memories trapped in the metal. I could sense them, not threatening, not angry, but present, quietly curious, waiting alongside the station itself. I returned to the observation deck one last time, kneeling before the window. The gas giant rotated slowly, clouds shifting impossibly, stars pulsing faintly. My breath caught in my chest. The tapping, the whispers, the soft vibrations, they had ceased, leaving a profound silence. And yet I could feel the station's awareness everywhere, patient, calm, unyielding. I wanted to leave. I wanted to return to my ship and escape. But a quiet voice, inside my mind rather than through my helmet, suggested otherwise. Not threatening, only insistent. Notice. Remember, I realized I was part of its story now, a thread woven into the vast, slow rhythm of the station itself. And as I floated there, staring at the swirling clouds and distant stars, I understood that Celestia Station would not release me so easily. Not yet. I left the observation deck slowly, each step measured and careful, documenting everything, leaving markers for anyone who might follow. I didn't see anything move, but the awareness lingered, soft, patient, omnipresent. The station hummed faintly beneath my boots, and I knew that somewhere deep in its core, it waited. And then, in the quietest moment, I realized I could feel the pulse of the universe itself echoing through the hull. Not a warning, not a threat, just observation, calm, endless. I have been assigned to a deep space survey mission near the outer edges of the Andromeda cluster. My job was simple: chart unmarked anomalies, record sensor readings, and report back. But nothing about that assignment was routine once I came across the Orpheus Drift. It was a small research vessel, adrift and completely unresponsive. Its trajectory suggested it had been floating aimlessly for years, yet there was no damage to the hull, no debris, no signs of a catastrophic event, just empty, silent waiting. Docking was slow, methodical. My hands shook slightly despite my best efforts to remain calm. Something about the ship felt deliberate. Its stillness wasn't passive. It was patient, as though it had been waiting specifically for me. The moment I crossed the airlock threshold, the temperature dropped perceptibly, though my suit read normal. I could feel a subtle pressure in my chest, as if the void itself had condensed into the corridors. Inside, the ship was pristine in an unsettling way. Equipment was arranged neatly. Screens displayed faint readings that blinked intermittently, and personal effects were in place. Coffee cups, notebooks, pens. I moved slowly, step by step, absorbing every detail, every subtle creak of the metal beneath my boots. The silence was profound, yet it wasn't empty. There was a weight here, a presence that pressed gently against the back of my mind. I explored the bridge first. Panels flickered faintly with data logs, fragmented and incomplete. There were no messages of distress, no signs of panic, just routine reports, and a single repeated entry in an unfamiliar handwriting. Listen, always listen. I felt a shiver run down my spine. The message wasn't threatening, not in the conventional sense. It was patient, insistent, as though the ship itself had left a note for whoever might eventually come. I moved through the corridors, cataloging each section of the ship. The crew quarters were intact, beds made, personal belongings in place. I imagined the people who had lived here, their routines, their quiet conversations in the galley, their small personal rituals to cope with the endless void. It was impossible to shake the feeling that they were still here in some form, present in the shadows and the faint hum of electronics. The observation deck was small but perfectly clear, offering a panoramic view of a nearby nebula. Its colors swirled slowly, impossibly, almost like liquid, casting an ethereal glow over the deck. I leaned against the railing, breathing slowly, trying to calm the creeping sense of unease. The stars outside weren't static. They pulsed subtly, faintly shift in patterns that made me question if I was imagining them. I wanted to take readings, to rationalize it, but my instruments couldn't detect the change. The nebula seemed alive, responding to my presence, to my very observation. Then came the sound. A soft tapping, like fingertips against metal, distant but deliberate. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay calm. It wasn't the hull settling, not this time. The tapping was rhythmic, patient, echoing faintly through the ship. I tried to locate the source, but it seemed to follow me, moving as I moved. I explored the lower levels, and the deeper I went, the more the ship seemed to respond. Hallways lengthened subtly. Doors appeared in places I didn't remember. My own footsteps echoed differently, heavier, slower, as though the ship was stretching time around me. And through it all, the soft presence lingered, just at the edge of perception. Not threatening, not aggressive, patient, observant, waiting. In the central engineering bay, I found a log terminal that glitched in strange patterns, as if the information it contained was trying to reveal itself selectively. Fragmented lines of code and garbled text flickered across the screen. Then, suddenly, one phrase stood out clearly: "Do not leave until you hear us." I froze. The words weren't loud, but they carried a weight I couldn't ignore. Something on this ship, or perhaps the ship itself, wasn't finished with me. I returned to the observation deck, drawn by an almost magnetic pull. The nebula outside shimmered softly, stars blinking faintly, and the low hum of the engines, or whatever had been powering the ship, resonated through the floor. I could feel a presence in the air around me, patient, calm, and impossibly aware. And then I heard it again, faint but unmistakable, a whisper echoing inside my helmet. Just one word: listen. I stayed there, pressed against the railing, staring into the pulsing nebula, waiting for whatever was here to reveal itself. The air was thick with quiet anticipation. The shadows moved subtly in the corners of the room, and I realized the Orpheus drift wasn't abandoned at all. It had been waiting for someone to arrive, waiting for me. The observation deck felt heavier now, though nothing had changed. The nebula outside pulsed faintly, its colors shifting in subtle patterns that defied explanation. I could feel the ship's presence everywhere, in the walls, under my boots, even in the faint vibrations that ran through my suit. The whisper of "listen" lingered in my mind, insistent, patient, as if the ship itself were breathing quietly, waiting for me to understand. I moved slowly toward the bridge, documenting every detail. The hallways were no longer familiar. Corridors twisted and turned in ways I hadn't noticed before. Doors appeared in unexpected places, leading to rooms that seemed alive with echoes of the crew's past. I could almost hear them: quiet conversations, soft laughter, the faint scratching of a pen across paper. Not threatening, not intrusive, just fragments of life preserved in the metal and circuitry of the vessel. At the central control console, the logs glitched intermittently, displaying fragments of messages, coordinates, star charts, repeated warnings. "Do not leave until you hear us." I felt a subtle shift in the air, a quiet awareness pressing against my mind. The ship wasn't malfunctioning. It was conscious, deliberate, and it had been expecting someone to arrive. Someone like me. I descended to the lower engineering deck, drawn by a strange curiosity I couldn't ignore. The hum of the ship grew faintly louder, resonating through the floor and walls. Shadows stretched along the consoles, moving with a subtle rhythm, as though the ship itself was breathing. I stopped and closed my eyes, letting the vibrations wash over me. The sense of being observed was overwhelming, not frightening, but undeniable. Patient, attentive, waiting. A soft tapping returned, faint and deliberate. It echoed through the halls, following me wherever I went. I tried to locate it, moving carefully, but each step seemed to ripple through the ship, causing lights to flicker, shadows to twitch. I realized that the ship was interacting with me, adjusting, guiding, testing, and I felt an unshakable connection forming, as though I had become part of the vessel's consciousness simply by being present. Returning to the observation deck, I pressed against the railing, staring out at the nebula and distant stars. Time had lost meaning. Minutes stretched into hours, or perhaps seconds, but everything felt slowed, as if the Orpheus drift existed on its own timeline. The whispering, the tapping, the low hum of the ship all converged into a subtle, quiet rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. And then I saw it, or rather, I felt it. A presence, not tangible, but profoundly aware. Shadows shifted at the edges of my vision, moving in patterns that weren't random. A gentle warmth brushed against my mind, faint and fleeting, almost like recognition. The ship wasn't abandoned. It had been waiting, watching, patiently, expecting someone to understand without needing explanation. I wanted to leave, to return to my own ship, but something anchored me in place. The whisper returned, not audible this time, but inside my mind. Stay, learn, listen. It wasn't a command, it was an invitation. And as I looked out at the drifting stars, the pulsing nebula, I realized that leaving might not be possible, not in the way I imagined. I sat on the observation deck floor, helmet lights dimmed, letting the presence of the ship wash over me. Shadows curled softly in the corners, and the hum beneath my boots reverberated like a heartbeat through the entire vessel. The Orpheus drift was patient, alive, and aware. It had stored fragments of its crew, echoes of life, and now it had me. I closed my eyes, letting the quiet, weightless tension fill me. There was no threat, no danger, only observation, understanding, and the subtle insistence to remain present. I knew that somewhere deep within the ship, it was waiting for me to notice, waiting for me to belong. And then the sound faded. The shadows receded. The nebula's gentle glow continued to pulse in silence, but I could still feel it everywhere, patient and calm, drifting with me through the endless void. And I understood. I was part of the Orpheus drift now. The void of space is vast, silent, and unknowable. Out there, among drifting stars and forgotten vessels, stories linger, waiting to be found. Ships float alone, memories of lives long gone. And sometimes someone, like you, might stumble upon them. So as you close your eyes, remember, space is not empty. It's watching, it's waiting, and its stories never truly end.